Right. Now, you said something very provocative. You said that there is this meeting that happened with, I believe you said, 57 different countries, was it?
Yes.
And this happened in Monaco?
Yes, and it was taken on board a ship, which was went into international waters. And according to two witnesses, Senator J. Rockefeller showed up and tried to break into the meeting, and he was physically ejected. And that two black helicopters appeared above the ship during the meeting, and they were chased away by Harrier jets, okay?
Now, these black helicopters would be like Apaches with weapons on them?
I don't know the details. No, I just heard that there were two helicopters and that there was a danger they were going to use some kind of electromagnetic weapon against the ship. And
like scalar technology kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And they were chased away by two Harrier jets.
Wow.
U.S. military jets.
So now, if they had succeeded with those helicopters, what do you think might have happened there? Would everybody have just died?
Well, they would have killed all the representatives, and then they would have said, "Hey, we're in charge, and if you try to go against us, we'll kill you," which is what they've been doing ever since World War II.
But if so many persons of interest died at once, wouldn't that become a massive international incident that would require investigation anyway?
Well, I mean, look, they have done this before. The Titanic was sunk deliberately to get rid of 600 senior financiers who were opposed to taking over the Federal Reserve Board.
Wow.
They would come up with some story about tragedy at Monaco, and the Kool-Aid drinkers out there would go and believe it. I'm sorry, but that's how it is.
So somehow you guys were you at this meeting yourself, Ben?
No, a close colleague of mine was there, and then I've confirmed it from two other people who were there who aren't related to that colleague of mine.
Now, what about people from Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, Council on Foreign Relations?
They were deliberately excluded.
Any one of them, no matter who?
No matter who. They weren't. If they were a member, they weren't allowed.
And that's also why J. Rockefeller wasn't allowed in.
That's right. And the other thing is, remember the Bilderberg meeting that took place in June in Switzerland, St. Moritz, Switzerland of this year?
Right.
It was supposed to last until Tuesday, and they all had to flee on Sunday night because they were about to be arrested by the Swiss.
Whoa, I never heard that before.
Well, it's there. Again, I mean, what happened was a Swiss lawmaker tried to get into the site, and he was beaten up. And he went to the Swiss government and said, "Hey, I'm a Swiss member of parliament in my own country, and they beat me up and threw me out, and that's illegal." And they said, "Yes, we'll go arrest them." And they all had to pack their suitcases and flee on Sunday night before being arrested on Monday.
So this would have been like a paramilitary SWAT team that would have swept in or something.
Well, yeah, the police authorities. So there you go. The Bilderbergers chased out with their tails between their legs. I mean, that's there for everybody to see.
Okay, so then So you're saying that this meeting in Monaco, it took place on a ship. You have representatives from 57 countries. You said 80 countries now have signed on to this treaty. Now, could we get into some detail about why this is so significant? What did they talk about? How are they going to pull off doing something like this, where these entities control these five corporations control the world media? Let's go into that a little bit.
They don't control the world's money, you see, and once they lose the control of the goons, the people with the guns, then that's it. At a certain point, I believe the Pentagon will probably send people into the TV headquarters in the U.S., and you're going to see new faces and a totally different story coming out on your TV set soon.
That's also a very heavy statement. What is the context of the Pentagon in light of this meeting of 57 countries? Wouldn't everybody in the Pentagon be part of the Bilderberg Trilateral Commission thing?
No, the Pentagon was represented there. The Bilderberg Trilateral Commission was not.
What percentage of the Pentagon is on the side of this alliance, would you say?
Well, I've heard that the only generals who are not on board are like Petraeus and I forget, but from what I've heard, most of the Joint Chiefs are now with this group.
What about lower levels of the hierarchy? like the
Well,
soldiers.
the lower levels, the lower levels are, completely pissed off, and they support Ron Paul, and they know that there's something totally wrong. Look, I mean, opinion polls in the U.S. show that 87% of Americans don't trust Washington. That should tell you the mental state in America now. And they're saying we don't want these scumbags in charge anymore. They're angry, but they're not sure who they should be angry at. That's, I think, how the majority of Americans think. They know there's something wrong. They know it has something to do with Wall Street and Washington. They don't know the details, but they wish somebody would come in and do something about it. And that is what is going to happen. These people are going to go to jail. And I can tell you who the leaders are, okay? It's people like Henry Kissinger, George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., Donald Rumsfeld, okay? Paul Wolfowitz, Tony Blair. We know who they are.
So these are neocons and their allies.
Neocons is the label that you use for them, but they go. That's the group that had this crazy plan that somehow they could take over the world's oil and still control the world for the 21st century. But yeah, we know who they are. They're just a bunch of. When you take away that curtain, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You pull away the curtain and you see a little old man sitting at the control desk. That's
I think most people could admit that Fox News and News Corporation would be a shill for these guys. But to say, you're basically saying that like all the media in America, for the most part, is controlled by these folks. I mean, why would the media not all sound like Fox then?
How many major networks and Hollywood studios have come out with 911 truth? Okay?
Good point.
Just ask yourself that, and then you can understand.
So
Listen,
you would
I
say,
have to go, but what I'm telling you is this: is that I want to conclude is that we found this thing called the Global Collateral Accounts. It's a code book that shows who's been using the world's money since the end of World War II and for what reason. And it has a list of names, for example, who financed the Vietnam War and why, all that kind of stuff. We have these records now, and we're having people, they're abandoning that cabal like rats jumping off a sinking ship. We have a world who's who coming to us with information. And when this happens, this is going to be, I think, ultimately the biggest thing, certainly since World War II, possibly the biggest thing in 2,000 years. Okay, we're going to see something, an ancient cabal that has controlled humanity through murder, propaganda, and bribery for possibly thousands of years is going to come to an end. It's going to be something that has not happened in the history of our planet before. It's going to be incredible.
Wow.
Basically, we're talking about the end of Babylonian-style tyranny. That's how far it goes back. But certainly the group, the P2 Freemasonic Lodge and the Vatican claim that they've controlled things in secret since the time of Julius Caesar.
Wow.
I went to Italy, I met them, and they tried to poison me. They didn't think I would come alive out of Italy with the information they gave me, but I did.
Okay, a couple quick questions just to tie this off.
Yeah.
Who did the underground bases in your estimation? Who nuked them and why? And does it have any relationship with this meeting in Monaco?
Yes. Well, it's Pentagon white hats saying to the elite, you're not going to destroy the surface of the planet and escape yourselves. If you're going to destroy the surface of the planet, you're going to destroy your families too. You're not going to escape. In other words, they made it very clear to them they're not going to be able to initiate some kind of nuclear holocaust and be able to get away with it.
Right. These guys must have always thought somehow that these bases were safe, and now none of them are safe.
Yeah, they had their greenhouses and their food supplies and their big screen TVs and their supply of women, and they thought, it's like Dr. Strangelove, we'll hide in our tunnels with our young ladies while everybody else up in the surface dies, and we'll come out, we'll take over the planet, and we'll breed like rabbits, Well,
so,
it ain't going to happen, okay?
Now, you had said on your blog that some of your people that were there in Monaco, they have detailed maps of these underground bases. They know exactly where they are, and that footage of the bases was shown?
That's right. to the world governments to show, yes, it's true, these crazy people were planning to kill 90% of humanity. So the world's governments know this.
Okay, so how can we expect that this event will take place? What might happen? When might it happen? What are we looking at? What are we going into here? What will be the precursor to this?
There's several possibilities. The one I'm hearing the most, the one that the Pentagon backs, is a lawsuit that would lead to the arrest of the top Kabbalists. And but right now they're also trying to cut a deal, saying, hey, look, you know, if you guys will stop the nuclear terror, then maybe we'll forgive you, because it's, you know, it's one of those situations where so many people are involved. It's better to have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee than a bunch of arrests and beheadings, you know?
So you're saying that these underground nuclear strikes against the bases...
There'll be thousands of arrests of very prominent people, starting with people like Henry Kissinger, or else they will cut a deal and they will appear before a Truth and Reconciliation Committee in exchange for, you know, one-time forgiveness.
Do we have a time window on when this might all come to a head?
Well, it's a war. I mean, who knows what crazy stuff they'll do next, but it could be as early as this fall. It could be as late as next summer, okay? I don't have a precise date.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm hearing we're pretty close now.
Do you think the failure of the Russian airplane that had their entire hockey team was in any way related to this war?
It's possible, but, you know, generally they would rather get a bunch of generals than hockey players, okay? You know, there was a crash off the coast of Brazil that was involved with this, I know, but I don't know about the hockey players.
Okay, so just in summary then, could you paint a picture of, let's assume that this happens, let's assume that these 80 countries get what they want. What kind of, just paint the picture of what happens and where do we go as a planet and how is it going to take us to get there?
Well, look, I mean, it's just common sense. We have the technical ability to end poverty and stop environmental destruction within a year. We just don't have the institutions or the will to do it. So instead of a fake war on terror, you know, aimed at financing defense companies forever in a useless manner, you would have some sort of huge campaign globally, you know, the equivalent of World War III, but a peaceful one, to fix all the problems on the planet, and then start telling people the truth about their history, which they've been lied to about so much, and start building new institutions that are fair, transparent, meritocratic. Anybody can climb the pyramid and get to the top if they're really, you know, good enough and determined enough. Instead of an inbred family controlling it, an inbred family group controlling it. And I think it's sort of like the people of Japan went through it at the end of World War II. Suddenly they're told their emperor was not a god and that the war wasn't actually ending in victory. And that soon, you know, everything was about to change. And it's going to be like that. Ask anyone who went through the end of the Soviet Union what it was like, and you get a pretty good idea of what's coming. But unlike the end of the Soviet Union, it's not going to be followed by hardship or poverty. It's going to be followed by an era of unprecedented prosperity and happiness. Okay? I got to go.
Great. Thank you so much.